responsible. But two American officials have now confirmed to NBC News that Israel was behind yesterday's attack. Those officials say that the United States was not given advance warning and that the U.S. was continuing to try to gather information about what exactly happened in Lebanon. And, Jose, people may be wondering, well, why is it that Hezbollah, this fearsomely armed militant group, is using pagers, a technology from the 1980s, 1990s? And the answer is Hezbollah believes that pagers were more secure than smartphones, that they were less vulnerable to electronic surveillance by Israel. That turns out to have been just an absolutely deadly mistake on the part of Hezbollah, as those pagers blew up simultaneously all across the country yesterday. This is a very widespread public health emergency in Lebanon now. Hospitals are overwhelmed by the scale of the 2,700 wounded in yesterday's attack, and every indication is that more ambulances are racing into hospitals today, carrying more wounded people. We have confirmation from the health ministry that 12 people were killed in yesterday's attack. Some of them were Hezbollah members, Hezbollah fighters, but the health ministry says at least 2 children were also killed. And, Jose, the question at this point, many questions. One of them, how is it that Israel got into the supply chain and managed to plant these small explosives inside what appears to be thousands of communication devices? The pagers that blew up yesterday bore the logo of Apollo Gold. That is a Taiwanese communications company. But overnight, that firm saying that the pagers that blew up in Lebanon were in fact produced by a company in Hungary, which used the Apollo Gold logo. Now, we were able to reach that Hungarian company earlier today. A pretty shaken-sounding woman identifying herself as the CEO says that her company doesn't actually make pagers. They just act as intermediaries. So what appears to be the case is that at some point in this supply chain, Israeli operatives were able to get in and plant these explosives before these pagers were delivered to Hezbollah. And big picture here, Jose, is we are feeling a whole lot closer to all-out war today than we were a week ago. That has been a constant threat as Israel and Hezbollah have been skirmishing over the border since October 8th, just one day after the Hamas attack. But this is a period of major escalation. And I can tell you, here in Israel, people are, on the one hand, shaking their heads in astonishment at what appears to be just the unbelievable craftwork of their intelligence agencies carrying out this covert operation on a scale that's really unlike anything we've ever seen before. But I can tell you, people are also deeply anxious because Hezbollah has vowed to take revenge. And as we've talked about, Jose, Hezbollah is far more powerful than Hamas, and a major war would be devastating for both sides. Jose?
Yeah, and Clint, let's talk a little bit about this, because the massive amount of pagers or beepers that were affected, right? Yesterday, thousands of them, and now we're seeing the possibility of these two-way radios being affected by it. This would be, Clint, more than just this Apollo Gold supply chain interception. If it's also in two-way radios, what's your reaction to this?
Yeah, Jose, this has been something that's been underway for quite some time, well designed by the Israelis, if it is them. And what they've been able to do is really find two communication methods to really destroy those. So, you know, I was reading some of the analysis that was questioning why the Israelis did this. If you think about it just from Hezbollah's perspective, a few weeks ago, as Raf said, moving away from cell phones because they were afraid they were being intercepted. Yesterday, losing 2,800 pagers and individuals wounded and dead. Now today, losing walkie-talkies. They are disabling Hezbollah's ability to communicate in any way. This is, you know, devastating for Hezbollah in terms of their own internal operations. If they wanted to do anything, let's say if there was an Israeli assault on the southern border, or if they wanted to organize their forces to do something inside Israel. There was some rumor that they were going to do retaliation. This really cripples their ability to do that. It's all hands on deck now for a second day. Also just points to the Israeli intelligence, if they pull this off, they're a complete intelligence on everything in terms of Hezbollah, how they communicate, and how to get into two different communication systems. So not the same vendor probably that provided the pagers is going to be the one providing walkie-talkies. Putting those explosives into all of these devices, that's a major operation. It takes quite a bit of time. Would be very difficult to keep concealed over a long time. And then when you see this just in succession, once, yesterday on the pager system, now on walkie-talkies, really pretends to, is this the first phases of a larger Israeli operation that might be to come?
And just thinking of what Raf was reporting, that in Israel there is a certain awe among many in Israel at the unbelievable craft work that the intelligence division was able to carry out. Just how difficult and how deep is something like this, Clint?
Yeah, it's international, Jose, to pull something like this off. They would have to know what communication systems and suppliers Hezbollah would be using and leaning on. They would have to put essentially placements or recruit people in each of these supply chains. That's a major undertaking. And then actual executing the operation in terms of if they're putting explosives in each of these devices. You can just imagine, Jose, nearly 3,000 pagers, maybe several hundred walkie-talkies. That's not something that just happens instantly. That's disassembling things, putting explosives in, programming, putting those back in, and then keeping them in a supply chain way that would not raise the suspicions of Hezbollah. So massive undertaking of their intelligence services, and this would really speak to a combination of human and signals intelligence like we've not really seen before.
Ralph Sanchez and Clint Walks, thank you both so very much. Appreciate it. And now to the race for the White House, and just 48 days to go until Election Day. Soon, Vice President Harris is going to be speaking to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's annual leadership conference, one day after she spoke to the National Association of Black Journalists about a range of topics, including false accusations about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio.
We want to start on an issue.
I mean, my heart breaks for this community. There were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day? Who were dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were going to wear the night before, and had to be evacuated. Children. A whole community put in fear.
Meanwhile, more than 100 former Republican members of Congress and national security officials have come out in support of Vice President Harris, saying Trump is unfit to serve as president. This, as the former president is scheduled to hold a rally near New York City this evening, one day after a town hall in Battleground, Michigan, his first big event since Sunday's apparent assassination attempt. He spoke about the phone calls he receives from both President Biden and Vice President Harris after the attempt.
President Biden, I want to be nice. He was so nice to me yesterday, but, in one way, I sort of wish the call wasn't made, because I do feel he's so nice. I'm so sorry about what happened and all that, but I have to lay it out. We have very important, and the same with Kamala today. She could not have been nicer. But the fact is, we have to have people that are respected by the opponent, by the other side.
With us now, NBC News correspondent Ali Vitale in Uniondale, New York, and Jasmine Wright, a reporter for Notice, a nonprofit news outlet. And Ali, Donald Trump has a big rally in New York this evening. Tight security after Sunday's apparent assassination attempt. Why is he in New York, which is not really a battleground state?
That is an excellent question, Jose, and one that I was asking myself. On the security piece, as you mentioned, it is a heightened sense here on the ground. But having been to hundreds of these rallies at this point, we see the similar posture that we see getting into all of these rallies. So a heightened sense of posture here on the ground, but still a sort of business as usual security posture that is already high. He is a former president. He has been the president. He has had Secret Service for years now. The fact that he is in New York certainly is catching the attention of many people, because you don't expect to see a Republican nominee for president campaigning in New York State less than 50 days until Election Day. Nevertheless, Trump is here. He is crowing on his social media platforms that he thinks that this could be an opportunity for Republicans to retake the state at a presidential level. I think that is a far-fetched theory, but the opportunity is less Trump's and more House Republicans, because in 2022, this is the state that really tipped control of the House chamber for House Republicans. On Long Island specifically, you look at the district where we are right now in and around Nassau County, this is an area that President Biden won in 2020, but it flipped from a blue-held seat to a red seat in 2022. Congressman Anthony D'Esposito now the incumbent who's defending himself for re-election upcoming in 2024. But Trump's presence here, although on Long Island you watch it get more progressively red as you go out to the further tip of the island, this is an area that is a swing state, that the Democratic Campaign Committee, according to my conversations with my sources there, is really targeting this specific district and this specific county. They say that if they can't flip the D'Esposito seat, that would spell signs of trouble at potential other places on the map. So this is a really tough swing district, and it could spell problems for this specific incumbent to have Trump here. According to our conversations on the Hill, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik says the Long Island Republican delegation is going to be here. They've got votes in Congress. I don't know how fast they're going to get back and forth, but certainly the politics behind the politics as we see the former president here on Long Island.
And Jasmine, just over an hour from now, the vice president is scheduled to speak to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's leadership conference. What's behind this?
Yeah, well, I think what you're seeing the vice president do this week is really lean into all of these constituencies that are a key part of Democratic base. Obviously, we saw her yesterday speaking to NABJ, who has a far reach into the Black community, and obviously that's their audience. And today we see her speaking to Latino constituents, trying to stop the hemorrhaging that we'd seen when Biden was still on the top of the ticket, and really trying to speak to those folks. We're going to hear her talk about the economy, because the campaign understands that that is a major issue for Latino voters across the country. But we're also going to hear her talk about her story. Again, the campaign is consistently competing with this idea that voters don't know who she is and what she would do in office. And so all of these events, yes, they're putting her into Blacker markets. Yes, they're putting her into Latino markets, but they're all trying to get to the goal of explaining who she is to voters who may not know just yet.
Ali Vitale and Jasmine Wright, thank you both so very much. Still ahead, Sean Diddy Combs just spent his night in jail after pleading not guilty to crimes including sex trafficking, kidnapping, and forced labor, while his lawyers are heading back to court today. Plus, new reporting on how at least 2 women have died because of their state's strict abortion restrictions. Talk to the reporter who broke the story. And next, we will go to Venezuela and speak with Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader who continues to fight for democracy in the wake of the contested presidential elections. Maria, thank you. We'll be chatting in just a second. She's still in hiding as the Maduro regime ramps up its violent oppression.
Introducing Ned's Plaque Psoriasis.
Ned, what are you wearing?
He thinks his flaky red patches are all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis.
Ned?
Otezla can help you get clearer skin and reduce itching and flaking, with no routine blood tests required. Doctors have been prescribing Otezla for nearly a decade. Otezla is also approved